League One is well underway now with the second week of action. We take a look at each game, including another late Doncaster winner, Bolton off the mark and Stockport storming on. Starting with an early weekend fixture on the Thursday night as Port Vale took on Cardiff City. Darren Moore made 5 changes from his opening lineup against Rotherham, Jaheim Headley sending off, forcing a change with Liam Gordon making his debut for the club, having signed from Walsall in the summer. There also starts for Carl John, Ryan Crosdale, Funso Ojo and Ronan Curtis. New signing Nathan Trott made his debut for Cardiff with 3 changes from their win over Peterborough. Callum Chambers returning from suspension to captain the side alongside Chris Willock, who moves into the starting 11 after coming off the bench last weekend. In the match, Port Vale came out with intent, Darren Moore's side clearly eager to make amends for their opening day defeat. The first warning shot came from George Byers. His header from a Ronan Curtis corner skimmed just wide of Nathan Trott's post. Jesse Debrun nearly broke the deadlock with a thunderous header that was somehow blocked in the box, while Curtis again threatened with a low cross inches away from setting up Crosdale for a tap-in, only for a Cardiff defender to snuff out the danger. The second half began as the first ended, with Vale pressing and Cardiff holding firm. Mitch Clark thought he'd finally broken the deadlock when he bundled the ball into the net, but the linesman's flag cut the celebration short. George Byers then rattled the crossbar with a fierce strike, only for another offside call to deny Vale once more. Curtis continuing to torment the visitors, delivering corners that Deborah and others were meeting with venom, but that finishing touch remained elusive. A late chance for Vale when the ball fell to Ojo on the edge of the box, but a brave block from Cardiff secured their point, with Vale unable to press home their opportunities. Darren Moore thought they got their setup right, saying we had the right energy, we had the right temperament, and I thought we caused Cardiff 1 or 2 problems and we might have capitalised on. Cardiff had won each of their last 2 away league games against Port Vale via 2-0 scorelines, with this the first visit to Vale Park since February 2003. They were very much on the defensive back foot this time around. It was a gritty point that keeps Cardiff unbeaten, but they'll know that they escaped Port Vale with more than they deserved, a point earned more by resilience than brilliance. Port Vale next in action on Tuesday with an away League Cup tie at Blackpool, as they again go back on the road for the League One return on Saturday, away at Burton Albion. Brian Barry Murphy said, I think it was a difficult game for us. I thought Port Vale played really well and we weren't at our best, so I'm fairly happy that the lads stuck to the task and managed to secure the draw. This was the first league meeting between the two since the 2002-03 campaign, with the Bluebirds winning each of the last 4 meetings between the pair, so to stop that run, but Vale could have had so much more. On balance of 90 minutes, a clean sheet and a point to have been taken by Cardiff. They'll be concerned how they struggled to cause damage to their opponents, but in the big picture, 4 points from their first available 6 has to be taken. Cardiff will host Swindon Town on Tuesday in the first round of the EFL Cup, with their second consecutive home match as they host Rotherham United at the weekend. Saturday lunchtime and Peterborough United took on Luton Town with just a single change for Darren Ferguson after their opening day defeat against Cardiff, with Cian Hayes coming on the wing for Malik Frith. Peterborough looking for their first points of the season. Shandon Baptiste came in for Liam Walsh in midfield. No injuries were reported, but apparently Baptiste had been training really well. Jerry Yates was handed a full debut after signing from Swansea City just a week earlier, replacing Nigel Lonvike, with Naki Wells moving to the bench, and Bloomfield wanted Yates to spearhead their attack. Peterborough started brightly, Croix Makoso firing over from close range after a corner, and Bradley Ahinvien broke into the box minutes later, forcing Josh Keeley into a smart save. The Posh looked lively, but they couldn't convert. Luton were patient though, they absorbed pressure and waited for their moment. George Saffel and Mads Anderson marshalling the midfield. And the breakthrough came just before the hour mark, with Saville delivering a pinpoint corner and Anderson rising highest to nod past Nicholas Bilokapich, a towering header and a deserved lead. Then came the killer blow. A back pass disaster from the goalkeeper allowed Wells to close down and win the ball. He squared it to Clark, tapped home with ease. Farcical defending, but clinical punishment. Ferguson said afterwards, we had chances, but you can't give goals like that. It's a lesson. It's a bad one for Peterborough to take. Peterborough failed to win any of their last 9 league games, losing each of their last 4 in succession. A tale of 2 halves, Peterborough starting with promise, but Luton's experience and composure told in the end. Peterborough back in action on Tuesday night as they travel to Accrington Stanley ahead of a League One at Wigan Athletic next weekend. Luton manager Matt Bloomfield said, we're building something. Anderson was immense and the lads showed maturity. Luton have lost just one of their last 10 away league games now against Peterborough. This was their first clean sheet though in 7 matches against these opponents. A dominant second half from Luton and a defensive masterclass saw them leave Peterborough with all 3 points and a growing sense of momentum in League One. EFL Cup action next for Luton as they head to Coventry City of the Championship on Tuesday ahead of a League One away match next Saturday at Bradford City. Reading took on Huddersfield Town on Saturday lunchtime, and after a disappointing opening day defeat at Lincoln, Noel Hunt rang the changes for Reading's first home fixture of the season. 4 alterations to his starting 11 for fresh energy. Daniel Kurawara and Paddy Lane both handed their home debuts, starting on the flanks. Liam Fraser was also given his first start, replacing Ben Elliott in midfield, joining Lewis Wing and Charlie Savage. Lee Grant, in his first away game as Huddersfield manager, continued to emphasise squad flexibility. Defender Sean Ruffin, who had limped off in the previous match, did return to training midweek and was in the squad. However, Marcus McGuane and Murray Wallace still being carefully managed and not rushed into action. The opening exchanges were cagey but spirited. Reading's Daniel Kariwa nearly lit up the home crowd with a dazzling turn inside the box, only to see his shot skim just over the bar. Huddersfield responded with intent, Joe Taylor unleashing a fierce drive after slick interplay with Mikael Miller, forcing Joel Pereira into a save. The Royals keeper again called into action after the break, denying Taylor once more. As Reading pushed forward, Ben Elliott's deflected effort nearly caught Owen Goodman off guard, but the town stopper reacted sharply. The deadlock was finally broken in the 74th minute, a Miller corner causing chaos in the Reading box, and Pereira's fumble proving costly. Jack Watmer, alert and ruthless, jabbed home at the loose ball to give Huddersfield a deserved lead. As Reading scrambled for an equaliser, Huddersfield struck again. Deep into stoppage time, substitute Cameron Ishia latched onto a loose ball and volleyed home with clinical precision. The Royals' defence, already stretched, could do little to prevent the killer blow. Noel Hunt commented on his opponents. He said, "They remind me of the Birmingham of last season. They've invested and brought in players with experience in this league and the league above." Reading had won each of their last 2 home league games against Huddersfield, but they were restricted from 3 wins in succession over Huddersfield at home for the first time since April 1989. The Royals in this one showed flashes of promise, but Lee Grant's Terriers were ruthless when it mattered. Reading made the short trip to Portsmouth in midweek in the EFL Cup, with match 3 of the league season pitting them at home against AFC Wimbledon at the weekend. The Huddersfield boss said, "Before the game we asked for 2 or 3 things specifically. I thought that the guys delivered to me in spades. We knew that as the first home game for Reading, all the energy, enthusiasm and incentive that would bring them." Huddersfield had lost each of their last 6 away league games in a row, last losing more in succession between February and April 2019. That's a relief to put that record to bed, with promotion aspirations bubbling. The Terriers continued their perfect start to the season with a composed clinical win today over Reading. Next up they take on Leicester City at home in the EFL Cup before they're away at Blackpool to follow on the Saturday with their next League One fixture. AFC Wimbledon took on Lincoln City, and Johnny Jackson had the luxury of a fully fit squad, allowing him to select from a deep bench of new signings and returning players. The back 3 of Isaac Ugundair, Joe Lewis and Ryan Johnson retained their places after a solid showing against Luton. Their chemistry and composure were key to Jackson's defensive setup. Fresh off a confident win over Reading, Michael Skabala opted for minimal changes, trusting the formula that delivered 3 points on opening day. The Imps were without Dom Jeffries, recovering from a hip operation, not expected back until after November, and Lewis Monsma also remained sidelined, continuing his rehabilitation. From the first whistle, Johnny Jackson's men looked sharp. The game's complexion changed dramatically in the 23rd minute when Lincoln's Adam Jackson lunged high into Matty Stevens, catching him in the midriff. The referee didn't hesitate, straight red. Just before the break, Sonny Bradley handled the ball inside the box, and Stevens, still nursing the bruise from Jackson's challenge, stepped up, coolly slotting the penalty in the bottom right corner, sending Wickens the wrong way. Lincoln weren't done though. Jack Moylan curled a decent effort over the bar, and before the hour mark he nearly broke through, only for Joe Lewis to make a vital interception. The Imps showed determination, but the numerical advantage did take its toll. Wimbledon controlled possession, probing patiently, and while Lincoln defended deep, the pressure mounted. In the 77th minute, Wimbledon sealed the win. Nathan Asimwe found space at the far post and fired a shot past Wickens, capping off a composed team move, sending the home crowd into celebration. Jackson said he was very pleased we got the win against a very good team. We prepped hard for Lincoln, knowing it would be a tough fixture. AFC Wimbledon had won just one of their prior 5 games against Lincoln in the EFL, a 1-0 victory back in October 2021. And it was a confident home win this time around, powered by a penalty, a red card and a late clincher. The Dons did look sharp, composed, ready to make Plough Lane a difficult place to go. Gillingham will be the venue for Wimbledon in the EFL Cup next, with Reading then awaiting, with a trip there at the weekend. Michael Scribala said, "I think the game hinged on it. The sending off and the penalty decision killed the game. Sonny Bradley sliding in with his arms in a natural position. He hit it, and I know the laws, but it's one of those where I'm not sure." Lincoln were looking to win their 2 opening matches of a league season for the first time since the 2020-21 campaign, after beating Reading 2-0 in their opener at Sincil Bank, but dropped the same scoreline here to Wimbledon. For Lincoln, it will be a lesson in discipline and resilience. The early sending off just left so much of the game to defend with 10 men. It eventually proved too much. Lincoln also on their travels for their cup match as they face Harrogate in midweek, with Saturday then bringing a home match against Plymouth in League One to look forward to. Barnsley took on Burton Albion on the Saturday afternoon. Conor Hourihane approached Barnsley's home opener with confidence and consistency, sticking largely to the side that impressed away at Plymouth. Barnsley had no new injury concerns, though Jack Hazelhurst remained sidelined following ankle surgery, and James Jones continues his recovery from a foot and knee setback. Burton stuck with a back three of Godwin, Malif, Moon and Civic, with Lofthouse operating as a wing-back. The shape remained a 3-4-3 designed to absorb pressure and counter quickly. Charlie Webster was again central to Burton's setup, flanked by Kogolo Chalk and Dylan Williams even, who had trained all week and was cleared to return after missing the opener. Burton struck early in the match. David McGoldrick adjudged to have fouled JJ McKinnon in the box. Beasley calmly slotted the penalty past Murphy Cooper to give the visitors the lead. For the second, it was a long ball over the top. It caught Barnsley's defence napping. Cooper rushed out in absolute no man's land. Tavares knocked it past him and finished into an empty net, the away end bouncing. Barnsley had dominated possession at that point, but they did look rattled. Hourihane's side needed a spark, and they did get it when Adam Phillips clipped a clever ball into the box and Vickers looped a header into the top corner. The home side continued to push, and when Connell's shot was parried by Jordan Amisa, Keeler Dunn was on hand to pounce and fire home from close range. It was a Desmond at the ready as it went 2-2. Charlie Webster unleashed a rocket from distance, but Cooper got low to keep it out. A crucial moment as the clock ticked into stoppage time, when Phillips floated in a cross and McGoldrick at the back post turned it in with a composed finish, marking a goal since joining in the summer in the most sweetest of ways. The Barnsley boss was bouncing, said that second half was everything: belief, bravery and a bit of brilliance. Barnsley have lost just one of their last 8 home league games now against Burton Albion with that second half comeback. It was a stunning overturning, a 2-goal deficit, snatching victory from Burton Albion in that 5-goal spectacle. Chaos, drama, pure League One theatre. Barnsley will be at home for their EFL Cup first round tie as they take on Fleetwood Town, with Bolton Wanderers the visitors in League One at the weekend. "We had it in our hands," said the Burton boss, but credit to Barnsley, they punished every lapse. Burton Albion have lost 4 of their last 5 league games against Barnsley, drawn 0-0 in their most recent meeting in February, but they really let this one get away from them at Oakwell. It'll be a hard one to take for Burton, who'd done so well in the first half, giving themselves a 2-goal cushion, but once the first went in, there was wave after wave of pressure. Away at Tranmere Rovers in midweek in the Cup for Burton, with a return home next Saturday lunchtime as they take on Port Vale. Bolton took on Plymouth, with Schumacher opting for Amari Cozier-Dubry, Joel Randall and Thierry Gale behind striker Mason Burstow, retaining his place despite limited chances in the opener. Sam Dalby had signed from Wrexham, still remains unavailable due to a lingering hamstring injury, while Charlie Warren, recovering from a wrist injury, returned to training but not risked for selection. Brandon Ibrahim and Caleb Watts featured centrally, with Watts again deployed in a more advanced role for Plymouth after scoring in the opener, Barley Mumba adding pace and creativity from the left. Pepple's fitness was also closely monitored, while other summer signings like Ben Patterson and Alex Benarous were named on the bench as cleverly eased them into competitive action. Defender Toll made the first mark in this one, rising highest in the 20th minute to nod home a pinpoint corner from Josh Sheehan, a captain's goal full of authority and timing. Plymouth under Tom cleverly struggled to find rhythm. Xavier Mechi's early free kick drifted wide and Cornell Sooks headed over late on, but they failed to register a single shot on target. Bolton's midfield duo of Xavier Simons and Sheehan controlled the tempo, while Amario Cozier-Dubry tormented the flanks. On the hour, Bolton doubled the lead. Cozier-Dubry was electric down the right, whipped in a low cross that found Mason Burstow, and the whole city loney tapped in coolly for his first goal in white, a real striker's finish. The final half hour saw Bolton manage the game with maturity, substitutes like Charlie Warren and Ethan Erhahon adding first legs, and the back four held firm. Plymouth's frustration started to boil over, late yellow cards for Barley Mumba and Caleb Watts, as the damage had already been done. This was exactly the reaction that I wanted, said the Bolton boss Schumacher. We asked for more intensity, more aggression, and the lads delivered. We defended with real urgency and transitioned quickly. It's the kind of football we want to play here. Bolton had failed to win any of their last 4 league games against Plymouth, failing to score in each of those matches before this one, so a much enjoyed win for them, their first of the season. It was a statement win for Schumacher, a reminder that reunions in football often come with one team disappointed. But on this occasion, it certainly wasn't Bolton who got their season started. Bolton host Sheffield Wednesday team in midweek in all sorts of trouble off the pitch in the EFL Cup before they travel to Oakwell and Barnsley next weekend. Cleverly said, we knew it would be a tough test. Bolton have spent well and have a strong squad. They showed that today. It's early days, we're building something here, and performances like this are part of the learning curve. After losing 3-1 to Barnsley on the opening day, Plymouth have now lost successive matches in the third tier for the first time since February 2022. It's not the start of the season that Tom Cleverley would have been looking for. It's clearly taken some time to gel and find the best formula to make Plymouth competitive in League One. At least so far anyway. Plymouth host QPR in the Cup in midweek before they look to get their league campaign started next weekend away at Lincoln. Exeter took on Blackpool and Gary Colwell faced a selection headache ahead of Exeter's first home fixture of the season. Several key players ruled out or facing late fitness tests. Confirmed absentees were Pedro Borges, unavailable due to a knee injury, continuing his recovery. Caldwell also had to play on without Pierce Sweeney and Yoni Afeko, who both failed late fitness checks. Steve Bruce entered the match with a depleted squad as well, juggling early season injuries and fitness concerns across multiple positions. James Husband, the club captain, ruled out until Christmas following hamstring surgery. It's a major blow to their defensive depth. Danny Imray and Albie Morgan also unavailable, nursing knee and muscle injuries respectively. From the opening whistle, Exeter City looked like a side with a point to prove. Gary Caldwell's men, still smarting from a narrow defeat on opening day, came out flying, and within 4 minutes they had their reward. Captain Reece Cole, the heartbeat of Exeter's midfield, rifled home a right-footed strike from the edge of the box after a clever layoff from Jaden Wareham. The tone was set. Blackpool under Bruce was stunned, and before they could regroup they were 2 down. 15th minute, Cole turned provider, swinging in a corner that Jack Fitzwater met with a towering header. 2 goals, 2 set-piece masterclasses. Exeter were cruising. The Seasiders did rally. Just 7 minutes later, Ashley Fletcher pulled one back with a glancing header from Lee Evans' delivery. It was a lifeline but not a turning point. After the break, Exeter's dominance resumed. On the hour mark, Fitzwater turned provider, nodding a long ball into the path of Wareham, who made no mistake with a close-range header. The striker's movement and instinct were on full display. And then, just to seal it, Sonny Cox, fresh off the bench, added a 4th in stoppage time, a crisp left-footed finish after a darting run and assist from Niskanen. It was the exclamation point on a statement win. That's the beauty of football, said Gary Colwell. Last week we were really disappointed. This week it's a completely different feeling. We were by far the better team in every aspect. The players were absolutely brilliant. Exeter City were winless across their last 6 league games against Blackpool, losing their last 3 encounters in succession, but an emphatic winner over the Seasiders this time. Thunderous response from the Greshams, and a reminder that when they click, they were forced to be reckoned with. Away at Cheltenham Town to come in the EFL Cup for Exeter, ahead of a lunchtime Saturday kick-off against Mansfield Town to come. Steve Bruce said it was arguably the worst afternoon since he'd been at the club, and he apologised to the supporters. They made a 560-mile round trip and deserved far better, he said. They were slow, sloppy and didn't take part. No urgency, no spark. I could go on and on, said Bruce. After winning 3-1 at St James's Park last season, Blackpool would have hoped to do something similar, but as Bruce surmised in his post-match comments, they were awful. With last week's frustrating slip at home, it's not an ideal start for Blackpool considering what's coming up on the horizon. 2 home games to come this week for Blackpool as they host Port Vale in the first round of the EFL Cup on Tuesday, then Huddersfield Town for the Seasiders on Saturday. Leyton Orient versus Wigan Athletic, and Orient, bruised from a 3-0 defeat to Huddersfield, returned home with a reshuffled lineup and renewed intent. Richie Wellens made 4 changes to his Orient side, injecting energy and experience. Captain Omar Beckles returning to the back line, while Idris El Mazouni, Ollie O'Neill and Adia Lang Jayasimi added spark across midfield and attack. Wigan, fresh off a confident 3-1 win over Northampton, stuck with their winning formula. Sam Tickle keeping his place between the sticks, while the back three of James Carragher, Jason Kerr and Steven Sessegnon provided stability. In midfield, Fraser Murray, Tyrese Francois and Jensen Weir looked to dominate possession, with Christian Saidi and Dara Costello leading the line. The match began with a flash of intent. Inside 3 minutes, O'Neill found Josh Koroma, his dangerous cross blocked, a sign of things to come. And in the 18th minute, Orient struck. El Mazzuni broke forward and fed Koroma down the right, his teasing ball into the box forcing Steven Sessegnon into a desperate intervention, but the Wigan defender could only chest it past his own keeper. Wigan's afternoon went from bad to worse. Just 5 minutes in, James Carragher hobbling off injured, forcing a defensive reshuffle. Sessegnon moved centrally, but the backline never quite settled. Orient continued to threaten, Joycimi firing into the side netting and O'Neill stinging the palms of Sam Tickle. After the break, Wigan showed brief signs of life, then came the dagger. On the hour mark, Joycimi won the ball high and slipped it to Koroma, who smashed it past Tickle for his first Orient goal since 2019. 2-0. The final act began to Sessegnon again for all the wrong reasons. In the 85th minute, Aaron Connolly broke free on the counter and was brought down just outside the box. Already booked, Sessegnon saw red, a nightmare afternoon for the fullback. We asked for a reaction and we got one, said the manager. The lads are aggressive, composed and clinical. Everything we lacked last week. We controlled the game well even before the red card. That wasn't the turning point, our intensity was. Leyton Orient had won just one of their last 10 league games against Wigan, a 2-0 success in December 24, following up here with the same scoreline. Some good performances from Orient and a great way to bounce back after last week. Josh Koroma was electric and some of the new players were starting to gel. Leyton Orient with 2 successive home games to come, Wycombe Wanderers in the Cup in midweek and Stockport County at the weekend. We didn't turn up today, said the Wigan boss, that's the truth. We were second best in every department. The own goal was unfortunate, but the red card was avoidable. You can't make those decisions at this level. Wigan Athletic were unbeaten across their last 5 away league games against Leyton Orient since a 3-1 defeat at Brisbane Road in February 92, but they went down this weekend. There wasn't the levels of quality on display that Ryan Lowe had hoped for this week. Early days, and after a win last week, there's plenty still to work on for Wigan. Now, Wigan have 2 home matches this week, hosting Notts County in the EFL Cup before they entertain Peterborough United on Saturday. Mansfield Town versus Doncaster Rovers, and Nigel Clough's Mansfield side came into the match eager to bounce back from a narrow opening day defeat. They stuck with a 3-5-2 formation, handing starts to Liam Roberts in goal, with a back three of Bailey Cargill, Ryan Sweeney and Elliot Hewitt. Grant McCann's Doncaster, fresh off a gritty win over Exeter, names an unchanged 11. Timothy Lotutala starting in goal with a back four of James Maxwell, Matty Pearson, Connor O'Riordan and Owen Bailey. Midfield trio George Broadbank, Charlie Crew and Harry Clifton, supporting a lively front three with Molyneux, Middleton and Hanlon. The first half was a tense tactical affair. Doncaster looked the most composed side, with Harry Clifton and Luke Molyneux probing the Mansfield backline. The breakthrough came in the 57th minute with substitute Stephen McLaughlin picking up the ball on the left, surging into space and unleashing a thunderous strike from distance, a rocket into the top corner. But Doncaster were not done. They pressed relentlessly and with 15 minutes to go, their persistence paid off. A corner whipped in from the left caused chaos, and under pressure, Elliot Hewitt inadvertently turned the ball into his own net, 1-1 with the momentum shifting. Deep into stoppage time and heartbreak struck for Mansfield. A scramble in the box again saw Bailey in the right place at the right time, smashing home a loose ball in the 96th minute to seal a dramatic 2-1 win for Doncaster. It was a shattering blow, said the Mansfield boss. To go 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go, we should have got at least a point from the game. I'm unbelievably disappointed with the 2 goals. Now, Mansfield are unbeaten across their last 4 league games against Doncaster since a 1-0 away loss in April 2017. In truth, at 1-0 up, it shouldn't have gone against them in this fixture. Poor defending from Mansfield killed them in this match, missing clearances and headers for the goals conceded. They really should have got at least a point. Mansfield will travel to League 2 Chesterfield in the EFL Cup next before a weekend clash on Saturday lunchtime away at Exeter City. Grant McCann said the dramatic late win was nothing more than they deserved, saying they had the better of the attacking play throughout. Owen Bailey was immense, 2 goals including the winner in the 96th minute. That's leadership. Doncaster have won each of their last 6 league games in a row, last enjoying a longer streak between March and April when they had 10 wins in 2024. 2 weeks in a row, the most dramatic of endings for Doncaster, turning both games from single points to 3 in the dying embers. Donny have championship opposition in the Cup as they travel to Middlesbrough ahead of a home League One clash at the weekend as they take on Wycombe Wanderers. Northampton Town versus Bradford City. Northampton, still adjusting under Kevin Nolan's leadership, entered their first home game of the season looking to bounce back from a 3-1 defeat at Wigan. Nolan made 2 changes to his starting 11, bringing in Conor McCarthy to bolster the backline and Elliot Liss to add pace up front. Bradford City, fresh off a 2-1 win over Wycombe, arrived with confidence and Graham Alexander named an unchanged side, with Sam Walker in goal and a back four of Matthew Pennington, Joe Wright, Curtis Till and Abu Toure. The first half was cagey. Northampton's midfield trio, Campbell, McGeehan and Forner, worked hard to disrupt Bradford's rhythm. List offered flashes of danger, but chances were few and far between. Bradford's best moment came in the 29th minute when Poynton danced through midfield and slipped in Humphreys, whose shot was blocked by Forbes. At the other end, Ethan Wheatley tested Walker with a low drive, but the Bradford keeper held firm. The second half saw both managers turn to their benches. Northampton introduced Nestor Guinness-Walker and Jack Perkins, while Bradford brought on Tyrick Wright and Will Swan to inject pace. Still, the deadlock held. In stoppage time, Curtis Tilt was booked for a late challenge, a fitting end to a match defined by grit and discipline. The final whistle confirmed a 0-0 draw with both sides taking a point and plenty of lessons. Northampton boss said we needed to respond after last week and we did that with a clean sheet. It wasn't pretty, but we showed resilience. Northampton had won their opening home league game in 3 of the last 4 seasons, beating Exeter 2-1 at Sixfields last campaign, but they didn't look like following that up here. Bradford had the better chances, but Northampton stayed compact and limited their clear openings. Now Northampton will host Southampton in the week as they face off in an EFL Cup first round tie. Then League One returns at the weekend as they take the trip to Stevenage. It should have been more than a point, said the Bradford head coach Graham Alexander. We hit the post, I had 2 cleared off the line and I can't remember our goalkeeper having any saves to make. Bradford City have lost just 1 of their last 13 away league games against Northampton, keeping 7 clean sheets during that time and only conceding more than 1 goal in 2 of those matches. A tight game without plenty of chances, but 4 points from their first 2 games is an excellent return for Bradford's return to League One. At Blackburn for Bradford on Tuesday for their EFL Cup tie, with a Saturday home and League One fixture against Luton Town. Stevenage took on Rotherham United as Alex Ravel named an unchanged side following their win against Blackpool on Matchday 1. That sort of 4-2-3-1 formation again employed, with Jamie Reid leading the line after his 2 goals on opening weekend. Zach Jules was suspended for Rotherham following his red card against Port Vale, which saw Sean Raggett come in at the centre of defence. Sam Nom, fresh of his strong performance in Matchday 1, lining up as the front pairing with Jordan Hugill. The breakthrough in this one came 5 minutes before half-time, a slick move involving White and Campbell down the left, Butler whipped in a teasing cross to the near post, and Reid, ever alert, darted in front of Raggett and glanced the header across down Cameron Dawson into the far corner. It was Reid's 3rd goal in 2 games and another example of his growing influence. Rotherham's attacking threat was minimal. Their only real chance came from a shanked effort from Reece James that deflected off Piergianni and bobbled wide. Sam Nom, their main striker, was isolated and eventually forced off with injury in the second half, a major blow, and even his replacement Kian Atete also limped off 20 minutes after coming on, compounding the visitors' misery. Stevenage could in truth have added more. Reid headed narrowly wide from a Roberts cross, and Dan Phillips, on as a late sub, stung Dawson's palms with a powerful drive. Rotherham's frustrations boiled over in the final stages. Raggett was booked for a late challenge and appeals for a penalty were waved away by referee James Durkin, much to the ire of the travelling fans. Revel said we had the energy, the start we wanted, runners in behind, crosses, shots. That was an excellent performance. Second half you saw a resilient team that put their bodies on the line in certain moments. Stevenage had won just 1 of their last 8 home and league games, failing to keep a single clean sheet during that time, so a great result on both counts this weekend for them. A dominant display from the hosts as Jamie Reid's hot streak with 3 goals in 2 matches continues. Stevenage are away at newly promoted Championship side Charlton Athletic in the Cup in midweek, ahead of a League One clash at home to Northampton Town. Matt Hamshaw said, "I'm disappointed and frustrated. I know what we've got in the group. We're up and down and we've got to stop this not turning up for halves of football." This was the 7th league meeting between Stevenage and Rotherham, with the Borough winning just 1 of those matches before this, which highlights Rotherham's troubles at the start of this season. And they were frustrated, both in defeat and the loss of several players to injury, which makes the start to their season even more frustrating. Rotherham will look to get their season on better tracking next weekend away at Cardiff, but before that they face Salford City in the EFL Cup in midweek. And finally, Wycombe Wanderers took on Stockport County, and Mike Dodds making some defensive changes from the defeat to Bradford, with Grimmer and Hagelscar starting Matchday 1, replaced by Dan Casey and Connor Taylor in Matchday 2. Magnus Westergaard dropped out having struggled with a knock this week, and Gareth McCleary is still a few weeks away from action. Westergaard and Lowry made way for Quaterna and Abbott for the visit of Stockport. Dave Shannon has selected Joseph Aluwu as part of his three-man defence, with Corey O'Keefe on the right-hand side. Malik Mothersill dropped to the bench despite his goal on opening day. Stockport, of course, going into this one off the back of an opening day victory against Bolton. On just 9 minutes, a slick move down the left saw Jack Diamond cut the ball back for Carl Wootton, who side-footed home from close range. Wycombe's defence caught flat-footed early on. The home side eventually were booed off at half-time as despite early pressures and 3 corners, Wycombe lacked bite. Stockport looked composed and the home crowd voiced their frustration. Things got worse after the break for Wycombe. A loose pass in midfield gifted Diamond the ball. He drove forward an incredible run and curled a stunning strike in off the bar, a moment of magic. Chance to get back into it though as the award of a penalty with Harvey was brought down in the box, but Alex Lowry's low effort smacked the post, a golden chance wasted. On 74 minutes, Lowry did redeem himself with a clever pass to Mullins, who rifled home on his home debut. The terrace roared to life with 15 minutes to go. A late save from Corey O'Dye from a Leahy deflected effort in injury time was as close as the home side came to an equaliser, as they went down to Stockport in the end 2-1. Mike Dodd said we were better than last week, but we've got to be more ruthless. A number of chances went begging for them. Wycombe Wanderers had lost just one of their last 7 home league games against Stockport County. That's now 2 in 8 as they left themselves too much to do after an hour. Their early season woes deepened despite a spirited second half fight back. Wycombe are travelling to Leyton Orient in midweek for an all League One EFL Cup tie before they take to Doncaster Rovers in the league on Saturday. Diamond was electric, said Challoner. We're building something here, and he will certainly be ecstatic at how his Stockport side have started the season. Stockport won their first away league game of the season in one of their only last 13 seasons, though that sole victory did come last season, so they can make that 2 in a row now. As well as 2 in a row from this season, 2 wins out of 2 with a clinical away performance here, looking good so far for Stockport. Crewe are the midweek cup opponents as Stockport host them on Tuesday, ahead of an away trip to Leyton Orient on the Saturday. So, an early table to look at, but Huddersfield and Barnsley lead the way after 2 matches as 6 sides still have a perfect record. Stockport, Luton, Stevenage and Doncaster all with 2 wins to their name. While at the other end, 6 teams yet with a point, sitting in the bottom places, Peterborough, Blackpool, Plymouth and Reading, but a long way to go. For a live weekly chat on League One as well as 3 EFL leagues, do check out the Absolute Football podcast on Thursday at 8:30 with our Absolutely Lower League show with Charlotte and the team. I'll be back next week with a Matchday roundup for the 3rd week of League One action. Till then, have a great week and I'll catch you on the next one.